9 different choices, 10 cereals in all. So good, some people can't make up their mind.
Have you got a nice steak on here somewhere?
A steak? Certainly, monsieur.
Good. Let me have a steak.
Attention, if you or a loved one manufactures napalm and have suffered social backlash following the release of Part 4 to Poor Dunce's vegan BIOSHOCK series, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Poor Dunce made the false claim that napalm is not vegan due to animal-derived gelling agents used in its manufacturing process. In reality, the gelling agents involved in manufacturing napalm are organoaluminum compounds such as triethylaluminum, which is most commonly derived from plant-based sources. In addition, the word napalm itself is a portmanteau of naphthalene and palmitic acid, both of which are vegan as well. This libelous slander of napalm has done tremendous harm to our nation's humble weapon manufacturers. Please, don't wait. Call me.
Yeah, it, turns out I was wrong about a weapon again. Okay, so, another quick lesson in Latin. Apis, that means bee. You know, apiary, it's the place where beehives are kept. Mellifera, that means honey bearing. We have to collect, as Langford's recording states,
That's right, sweetheart. Honeybee spit.
I step out to clear my head, only to find the area swarming with splicers. Guys, I really don't have the time right now. Oh my god. Dude, we shattered that guy. Holy shit. Anyway, I get killed, yet again, by a Houdini splicer and then make my way over to the farmer's market per Atlas's direction.
If you're looking for something in particular, I'd start at the farmer's market.
So no, collecting and using honeybee spit isn't vegan. It seems like a pretty inevitable non-vegan action lies ahead of us. But hopefully we have some control over exactly how we go about this process to mitigate the damage done. On the way to our destination, we find another Power to the People station, where I obtain the second upgrade for our machine gun.
Maximum strength.
Now we have both accuracy and increased damage, which, at least in the short term, helps to level off that difficulty curve that seems to be increasingly ramping up. Right as we head over to the farmer's market, we're greeted by a jump scare in the form of a photo of a farmhouse. Real spooky shit there, game. I'm absolutely quaking in my boots at the idea of, living in Nebraska. Stepping into the farmer's market, we immediately find our first sample of the bee enzyme. By picking this up, I'd say we're still fine. As per my earlier established precedents, it's when we use non-vegan things for something that there's an issue. By the way, there's a radio playing music somewhere in this area, which, let me just tell you, makes it really tedious to edit around in post. At this point, I start to get into the flow of using the chemical thrower. It really helps to compensate for my absolutely abysmal aim. Anyway, it is here that we're forced to confront the bee conundrum. In this room up ahead, we find the apiary. Our goal is to find 7 total samples of this enzyme from the bees. The game expects you to do this by activating the smokers, putting the bees into a docile state, giving you a brief window to run in and collect what you need. Now, we could get into a very lengthy debate on beekeeping here. And so, I'm obviously gonna, do that, and we're gonna bring the video's progress to a total halt and talk about that right now. You'll find online people that claim to be vegan but don't have an issue with eating honey. Some of the arguments I've heard are beekeeping is beneficial to bees, extracting honey doesn't harm them, or beekeeping is necessary for pollination. You stupid vegans wouldn't be able to eat your damn kale salads if it weren't for bees. And hey, when I initially went vegan, I'm not gonna lie, I thought these arguments seemed fairly sound. But let me tell you why, personally, I don't eat honey, and back it up with some counter-arguments to these points. In the strictest sense, if you were to say, completely omit the honey extraction process from the picture, sure, beekeeping as a practice is very beneficial to bees. Well, specifically European honeybees, and arguably only in the short term. You see, the practice of beekeeping provides these artificially imported and arguably invasive bees throughout the majority of the world, with an advantage over native pollinators in the form of artificially guaranteed safety and access to food, thereby allowing them to effectively outcompete native pollinators for resources, leading to the plummeting of their populations and ultimately a net loss in biodiversity. This loss in biodiversity, while not only contributing to the current Anthropocene mass extinction event that we're all actively living through, also comes with a secondary effect of producing a uniquely centralized and therein biologically susceptible population of pollinators that we are then totally reliant on for agriculture. You've no doubt heard about colony collapse disorder, but what a lot of people don't realize is that this isn't like a specific singular thing. It's an umbrella term for a phenomenon covering a set of increasingly prevalent symptoms within the beekeeping industry, which, by pretty much all accounts, is the result of a combination of various pathogens of which these commonly utilized bee species are specifically susceptible to, and over-reliance on pesticides that negatively impact the well-being of bees, and the effects of cumulative stressors that they experience induced by humans, such as constant transportation and smoking for honey extraction. So, sure, maybe beekeeping is beneficial to the strict survival of a specific colony of bees actively being kept in the moment. But to bees in general, to pollinators worldwide, to the future of agriculture, I don't think you can soundly make the claim that beekeeping is a net positive. All of this aside, my personal basis for veganism doesn't even derive from some sort of environmental argument, but rather an ethical one. I have a flat-out moral opposition to the exploitation of animals, of which bees are included. In my view, any argument made to recontextualize the inherently extractive relationship of beekeeping for honey is one that I'm going to disagree with on a moral basis. And in this scenario, we're basically just swapping out honey with an enzyme, which means it isn't vegan. So, how do we handle this situation? Well, we're forced to do this in order to progress, and also story-wise to not flat out die, so our choice here is going to be about harm reduction. When beekeepers smoke a hive, it not only reduces the bees' abilities to communicate with one another via pheromones, but also puts them into a state where they believe a fire is threatening the hive. As a result, they gorge themselves on honey in preparation to relocate, making them very lethargic and less likely to sting. This is beneficial to the beekeeper, obviously. I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. But understandably, a significant source of stress for the bees. On the other end, by not smoking them, they're also stressed out by some big ape digging around in their house, and so they attack in self-defense. When a honeybee stings someone, they pretty much inevitably die, as their barbed stinger remains lodged in the skin, meaning that their internal organs are ripped out when they attempt to fly away. Pretty gruesome stuff. So, with that, it seems like smoking would be the correct choice here, right? It's stress-inducing, but it doesn't kill them. Well, guess who didn't use the smoker? As I stated before, after activating the smokers, you have a brief window to run in, search the hives, and extract the enzyme. However, each time you search a hive, and not all hives even contain the enzyme by the way, a group of splicers will rush into the room to attack you with various and potentially very destructive means of assault. The collateral damage of this combat, while not directly measurable through gameplay, like there's no bee death counter on screen, it's still very notable, very visible, and I can only imagine would be much worse for the general well-being of these hives, given, historical examples of my terrible ability to aim and take down enemies. Because of this, I opted not to activate the smokers. Because if you don't activate the smokers, then splicers do not rush in to confront you when you check the hives. Probably because the developers didn't imagine anyone would be so stupid as to rush into this room without first utilizing them. Yes, bees are stinging us, and as a result, many are dying. But I believe it to be many less than would occur through the constant unpredictable crossfire and explosions of combat. I'm not even exactly sure how to quantify how many non-vegan actions we're carrying out here. In the end, I'm gonna say that it's 4. 1 for all of the bees valiantly laying down their lives in defense of the hives, and then 2, 3, and 4 for each instance of taking enzymes from said hives. The other 4 samples, by the way, are obtained 1 from that area at the start, and then 3 more from a safe in the corner of the apiary. Yes, those were extracted from the bees also, but not by us. All of this quantifying exactly what is a non-vegan action is just a narrative framing device anyway. I'm sure there's a million other ways I could come up with a different number. Honestly, let me know if you have a better idea. I'm down to hear it out. Anyway, reeling from the bee-induced physical pain as well as financial pain from the draining of my account to afford the first aid kits needed to stay alive through that entire ordeal, we continue on in search of the remaining components of the Lazarus vector. The distilled water is just kind of hanging out in various places. I have to shoot one jug down from a rafter, luckily it's bulletproof. Up ahead, we find a U-invent station, and with the acquired requisite materials, we are able to craft the Lazarus vector and advance with the plot. Which, I would argue, is also another non-vegan action, as we're now utilizing those animal source materials extracted from the bees to create something. We make our way back to Arcadia through a host of splicers, and upon our arrival, Ryan sends a bunch of security drones out to slow us down, which is very unfortunate timing, because I'm out of health kits. So I went and bought some more. Honestly, didn't even really need them though. I just booked it to my destination back in the lab without much issue. When we get there, we insert the Lazarus vector into the ventilation system, which I'm gonna tack on as another non-vegan violation, and then this begins the gauntlet. I start shooting out proximity mines in preparation for a standoff per Atlas's suggestion, only to realize I'm setting up in the wrong location. So I've basically just wasted some precious ammo. Good move there, Dunce. Heading to the actual point we're meant to defend, I find a big daddy that, in a normal playthrough, would probably already be dead, but in ours is just kind of there as an annoyance, forcing me to wait tediously for him as he trudges along. Atlas sends us some supplies, we seal the door, and then the gauntlet begins. Okay, so for viewers out there with any concept of quality control, you may have noticed that some of these clips in this video have not so great frame rates. You see, I recorded the original gameplay footage for this series all the way back in December of 2020. Back then I had a, let's say, less robust graphics card and a much more limited understanding of recording, video codecs, encoding, editing in general. I'm working with footage here that's about, 3 years old? And I'm coming to find now that it's basically all unwatchable. So what do? Do I just end the series here? No, that wouldn't be very fulfilling. Spending so much time with a 15-year-old game leads to a very intimate level of familiarity with the source material. There are so many little things, looking back at these now unsalvageable recordings, that I realize I could have done differently. And that's not even factoring in all the weapons that I've unnecessarily restricted myself from. For instance, I had this whole thing in part 2 where I talked about how the Vita chambers aren't vegan due to their utilization of Atom. But right here in the menu, you can just disable them. Another thing I just noticed in the making of this episode, I extracted 3 bee enzyme samples from the hives earlier, meaning 3 non-vegan actions in the process. Turns out, if you hack the U-invent station before crafting the Lazarus vector, you instead only need 6 samples of the enzyme rather than 7. That'd bring us down an entire non-vegan action. So, here's what I've decided on. I'm gonna play through this whole damn game all over again, correcting those tiny mistakes, but also letting myself use all of those weapons that I mistakenly avoided, like the shotgun, pistol, napalm. However, the idea of redoing the whole game, but with fewer restrictions, that doesn't sound super engaging to me. So this time I'm cranking it up a bit. Strap in, no Vita chambers, no animal products, on maximum difficulty. Oh yeah, I actually have to not die now. This is gonna suck.
Your little stanky leg, do the broken leg.
The game has apparently soft locked, so I'll have to restart. Kind of takes the wind out of my sails a bit. Whatever, we'll just pick back up where we were in the next episode and I'll recap really quick. Hey! So that was the longest delay yet between my videos. Thanks for the patience. There's been a major change in my life recently that'll remedy these delays, however. And if you're interested to learn more, you can read about it with my patrons over at patreon.com/poordunce. And while we're at it, I'd like to go ahead and give a shout out to my very appreciated patrons, with a special extra shout out to the upper tier of turbo patrons like Blurk Plimpton, Condensed Metaphysicist, Cyan and Orange, Jade Tigers Typing, Malacandra, Mazakine Maze, Mr. Floyd, Olive, Rain the Little Lamb, Sour Pears, and Variable Kier. Thank you all so very much. And thank you everyone for watching.